Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday, November 1st. Happy Halloween this week. Happy Dia de los Muertos. Happy All Saints Day. Pick whichever way you celebrate this 24 to 36 hour period around the end of October, beginning of November every year. I wish happiness to you for that. So it's Friday, November 1st, which is insane to me. November 1st starts to feel like, oh, Thanksgiving in the US is right around the corner. And then there's Christmas, and holy cow, we're planning for 2025. And yikes, that's a lot to think about. Had a lot on my mind this week, as I usually do, but I just wanted to kind of hone in on one topic that's really been consuming me all week to share with you. But yeah, this week I've been thinking about my grandson. I've been thinking about Leo. I've been thinking about my daughter. I've been thinking about her family. I've been thinking about our family, the family in the macro sense. I've been thinking about our upcoming election here in the US next Tuesday. I've been thinking about our podcasting business, and I've really been enjoying and thinking about how much I enjoy our shift to autumn, our fall-like weather that we're getting for Southern California. LA fall-like weather is not like fall-like weather in lots of places, but I do have trees outside my apartment window, and the leaves are falling off of them, and they have changed colors. And it is cool enough for it to finally be sweatshirt weather, which is really exciting for me. So I got the long sleeve on today, and I'm enjoying it fully. But mostly, I've been just super obsessed with putting together our initial sponsorship packages for our podcast and beginning to build this kind of pipeline of interested prospective sponsors and partners for us from my vast, wonderful community of incredible people that I'm blessed to call friends and investors and associates and peers and former clients and alumni of our show and all the like. So that has really been where all my energy and my mind has been this week. It's been fun. It's been creative. To work with Deanna to create the documents and to put together kind of the packaging and the messaging. It's been fun to use ChatGPT to help kind of cheat code some of the writing for me with my guidance and instruction from Entrepreneurial on our team, who's my ChatGPT cheat sheet. And that's all incredible, but really what's been kind of overwhelming in a positive sense is that what a marker this is for a shift in our business, in my business. This is now oh shit, this is business, right? It's time to start selling sponsorship packages. It's time to start generating revenue to pay the bills and to build this business to give us an opportunity to operate it the way that we want to, and then from there to give us an opportunity to expand it the way that we want to execute our kind of longer, broader business plan, which involves multiple mediums that I've talked about with you before or shared with you in our WeFunder crowdfunding campaign content or talked to you about here before. So it's a weighty kind of both practical operating reality this week that has me mostly and Deanna and I working together to create these things, and then just to begin to have these conversations. I've had some. I'm very gratified and excited and grateful for the initial feedback and some of the initial commitments and the excitement around folks wanting to jump in and either themselves, as individuals or their families, become sponsors of what we're doing, or as their brands, as their company or their firm become sponsors and tie their brands and what they stand for in their lives with me and our positivity in our podcast and in our storytelling in general across our social content, because that's a huge thing. So that in that process, right, it's been a huge leap forward for me, and it is because it is essentially time to sell, right? This is time to sell now, and that in and of itself is kind of like a new piece to this whole podcasting business puzzle of mine. That we've gone from, okay, it was time to learn how to podcast and time to learn how to be better at podcasting and time to learn how important consistency is in podcasting, time to hire and then work with people like Deanna, who's transformed what we do and literally just catapulted us forward and made us the great shows that we are now. Time to go from one podcast to two podcasts, this as well as our Entrepreneurial Thinkers with Rob Ryan podcast that you hopefully enjoy and have listened to. But at the end of the day, that becomes selling, right? I mean, there's a sales process that goes on with that for me to help essentially share my ideas, to share my concepts, to share my vision, not just for what we're doing and my passion and my energy for what we're doing, but also for how what we're doing can be valuable, mutually valuable to people in what they do. and to how they express themselves in their lives as individuals or families, or as businesses, right? And so that ultimately is a sales job. And you might say, if you've known me a long time, or if you've gotten to know me through our podcasts or our social content, that like sales is part of my DNA, and it absolutely is. I've been doing it since I was 19 years old. I'm 56 now. So that's a long career attached to, rooted in sales, no matter what my titles have been or what my primary responsibilities in different jobs or different entrepreneurial pursuits have been. I have at my root kind of a DNA level of sales, right? And that's because, my dad did some form of sales for most of his adult life after his military service, early in his career. And then he mentored and trained me in my earliest days, like straight out of college, working for him in the art of sales and as he used to call it, the art of professional relationship development. When I went to work for him, and here it is all these decades later. I've had all these opportunities kind of regularly to sharpen my skills, to sharpen my understanding of professional sales, to sharpen my understanding of how people interpret value and what's valuable to them. And ultimately to learn how to, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in the book recommendation at the end, but ultimately learn how to ask great questions, or ask better questions, or just ask questions. When I was younger, I thought sales was like this proactive thing where you spit stuff out at people, right? And then you waited for them to react. And what I learned over the decades, and from experts like my dad and mentors like the half a dozen people easily that I've had that are world-class salespeople who have become mentors or bosses of mine over the course of my career, is that it really does come down to asking great questions. And then the ability to be quiet and listen to people express to you where they're trying to go, what they're trying to accomplish, who they are, what they stand for, and then find ways that either in our case that we can align with that and we can provide them that value, and they can benefit from collaborating with us creatively in public via our podcast as a sponsor. They can benefit from having their name or their family name or their business's name attached to what it is that we do, because it will shine positively back on them. Like, it does come down to kind of asking them questions and then understanding that, and then trying to help them with that. My dad always used to say that when I got started in sales, people would try to teach me that you're trying to push people towards a goal, you're trying to push people to a decision, you're trying to push people forward in your pipeline, etc. And my dad always flipped that around and said, you're not. You're actually, your whole job, your whole purpose in selling anything conceptually is that you're just trying to pull people forward towards where they want to go. You're trying to literally just help people get to where they want to go. And it's important that why this has been on my mind, and kind of it bleeds into what my podcast recommendation is, and then the book recommendation I'll share. It's because this is really fundamentally part of who all of us are. I was thinking about a conversation I had with my 16-year-old niece. She's junior in high school, and she's got a project that she started from scratch, a community service club, and she was super proud that she had like 87 people sign up for that. And we were talking about kind of how she went about that, and I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, she's a salesperson. Like, she had to go out and sell her idea of this community service club to her high school community and compel people to be, to get involved. And she did that by listening to what they were looking for and what kinds of clubs did they want to be involved in and what was missing in the club scene at the school. And right, so she was a salesperson, even though she would definitely probably say, like, I don't want to be a salesperson, right? We're all salespeople, no matter where we are at professionally or personally in our lives, because every day we wake up and we have some idea, or we have some vision for the day, or we have some idea at work, or we have some business vision that we have as entrepreneurs, or we have a vision for how we can deploy our capital if we're investors. So ultimately, everybody has to sell something on a daily basis. Like, we're constantly selling ourselves, we're selling our products, we're selling our services, no matter whether you are a salesperson by definition or not. We all have to do that. And so for me, to now be in this kind of position of turning our podcast into 2 podcasts and now into the business that's going to sustain my team and my lifestyle, which means literally just paying the bills and eating, right, is exciting. But it requires now my salesmanship to come through in this new chapter, not just my creativity as a host and a conversationalist in the shows. And that's very exciting, but also very, very scary, and kind of like wakes me up again and lights a fire under me. And so that's been on my mind. It's consumed me all week. And separately, 2 quick recommendations for you, because I think there'll be practical things that you can learn about yourself and about sales in general. Is The other reason that this has been on my mind this week is because I've listened back a couple of times to a recent episode of our Entrepreneurial Thinkers with Me show. And we had a guest, a great friend of mine named Chris Stock. We had an episode that's, if you search for it on Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast, or you go see it on our YouTube channel, it's called A Botox Injection for Your Sales Growth. Which when you hear Chris's story and the industry he's working on, you'll completely understand that title reference. It's episode 136. And again, I hope you like it, follow, subscribe, share it with friends, go find it on the YouTube and like it there, comment on it, give us thoughts about it. But the conversation covers so much ground about professional sales, about how we are all salespeople in some way or another. And then also just about like the practical, tactical ways that he has used his entire career. So he, much like me, it's like listening to old guys who are classically trained business to business enterprise sales guys, trading old stories, right? And so Chris is very much like me. He's probably the most peer-like person I've ever met in professional sales, which is one of the reasons we became friends over the years. And he narrates us through this discussion in a way that even the most novice and new salesperson can pick up information, or the person who doesn't think they are a salesperson can pick up context and encouragement and information about how they can go about just selling their ideas or selling themselves for promotions or whatever it might be. So he does a really masterful, kind, thoughtful job, as he always does. He's a very sweet person, and very wildly experienced. And so he does a great job of sharing both his own story from having worked at IBM, having grown up in a household where his dad was a professional salesperson and executive as well. And so he learned a lot like I did in that way. But then he also kind of explains to us how he does the work that he does in the wellness and med spa industry as part of his company that he is the CEO and founder of, called SalesMD. So it's a great fun episode. It's easy to digest. I hope you go check it out and enjoy it. And if you do, please, again, share it as always. And the one punchline of that episode is that he also does put an end to the age-old question of, are salespeople born or are they made, right? So do we come out of the womb like this? Or are we actually like trained and develop skills just like any other profession? And he answers that question, so you might want to check that out. And last bit for you today is the book recommendation for the week. It's called A More Beautiful Question, The Power of Inquiry to Spark Breakthrough Ideas, by an author named Warren Berger. I've just begun listening to this book. It was recommended to me by a friend. I found it fascinating at the very simplest level. Yes, it ties into sales and business and all those types of things, but it also just is this fundamental idea about, if we want to get better answers to things in life, if we want to better understand things and or others, and I really think we're at an important time in history right now where it's critically important to understand others better, we've got to learn how to better ask questions, and we've got to learn how to ask better questions. This author, Warren Berger, reveals all of this in this title, this is a kind of an updated version of this title. Adam Grant, who you've heard me talk about before here, and who is an author of a couple of books that we've recommended in this series already. His recommendation for this book was simply, it's a book that everybody ought to read without question. And yes, he had a little play on words there. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'm a couple of chapters in. I'm enjoying just kind of being reattached to the art of the power of questions in our dialogue and discussions with each other in society, and then also just the art and science of asking good or better questions to try to elicit the information or the knowledge, or to move the conversation in directions that you want to move it into. The question is ultimately where it all starts, in sales. Again, it's not the pitch. It's not what you've got to offer. It's the questions, right? You can put out your information, and then you're asking a question. You're inviting people into a discussion with you about these things. So that's it. Sales has been what's been on my mind this week. I'm super excited. If you want to be, or interested in being, if you watch this and you're interested in being a sponsor partner of ours, please come join in this journey with us. Hit me up, DM me, message me, text me, however you normally get a hold of me. If you know me, and we'll have that discussion, because I'll ask you some questions about what it is you're trying to accomplish with your name or your brand or your company. And then I'll explain to you how I think that what we do in our positive podcast storytelling can be a great fit for you. So that's it. We'll see you here next week, which is going to be like middle November already, November 8th. That's insane. We're boom. We're going to be at the end of 2024. So I hope it's been a good year for us so far.